Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. Before I can continue working on Elmer's engine number 2, I need to create an offset drilling jig for the crank. Now what this allows me to do is to drill the crank pin hole off center by 1/4 of an inch. And the way that it works is you drop the crank into the jig and it sits flush with the surface, and then it's secured with a set screw, and then you put this into the 3-jaw, which will allow you to drill this offset hole. So let's head over to the lathe and get it done. Okay, for this project we're going to be using 2-inch aluminum round stock. I've already got the piece cut off on the bandsaw. Now we're just going to face off each end and then we'll go from there. Alright, for the next part we need to set up the 4-jaw, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll be right back. Okay, I've got the 4-jaw mounted on the lathe and I have my part in and indicated already to the offset that I need. I did this off camera because indicating a round object in the 4-jaw is kind of a pain in the butt, and I didn't want to bore you guys with it, and I also didn't want to fumble around with the camera and the microphones and all that. So I'm just going to talk you through how I did it. Initially, I placed the work in the chuck and indicated it as you always would, indicating it to 0. Then you line up a jaw with your indicator and move it over your offset. For me, it is 250 thousandths, 1/4 of an inch. Now you have to remember that as you move this over, on these 2 jaws, it is getting narrower, so these 2 jaws are going to loosen, and you're going to have to tighten these down as you move along to try and keep this part as centered as possible. Once you have your offset measured, you can come back to these 2 jaws and make sure your indicator is reading the same so that you know it's centered, and then you can come back and measure your offset, check your offset again. Now this time, because we're measuring from one side to the other, we're going to be measuring the diameter instead of the radius. When we first moved this over, we were measuring on the radius, so we did a direct measurement of our offset. Now when we're going across the diameter, we're going to be showing double our offset. So in my case, instead of reading 250 thousandths, it's going to read 500. Now if you watch the needle on the indicator, I know you can't see the numbers, but the needle will move around 5 times. And there's 5. Now my indicator is showing slightly less than 5. It's showing 1/1000th less. That just means that when I did my initial measurement of the offset, the 250 thousandths, I was a 1/2 thousandth off. Now with this little steam engine, that's not going to make a big bit of difference. So just to illustrate that we are still just 1/4 of an inch off of center, what I'm going to do is we'll move my indicator out of the way. And I'll bring in the center of my tailstock, and if you look closely, right there I have the center of the part marked. That's just the center of the swirls from when I faced it off earlier. And if I line up the ruler with that, you can see that the tailstock center is pointed at 1/4 of an inch. Now that we got this done, let me get it set up for the next operation, and I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so here's the part that I need to drill an offset hole in. So what we're going to do is drill a hole all the way through to 5/8 of an inch, and then we're going to counterbore it to this diameter, which is 3/4 of an inch, and then 3/16 inch deep. Alright, now we'll get set up for the counterbore. Alright, now that we got the hole drilled, we need to counterbore it 3/16 of an inch deep, 3/4 of an inch in diameter. I've already got the boring bar zeroed to the face of the work with my dial gauge. The first thing we need to do is to clean up the bore so we can get an accurate measurement with the bore gauge. That's exactly what we're looking for. Snug fit, flush to the face of the work. Alright, in order to hold our crank in the jig, I just drilled and tapped for a set screw. I didn't show that on camera because that's relatively easy stuff. We'll just put the crank into the jig, tighten down the set screw, there we have it, our hole drilled for the offset. And 1/4 of an inch off center. That'll do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.